The last line of defense. The emergency alert pierced through the usual calm of the Galactic Alliance's Central Command. Admiral Sarah Chen stood before the massive holographic display, her weathered face illuminated by the pulsing red warning signals. Around her, representatives from 24 spacefaring civilizations argued in their native tongues, their universal translators creating a cacophony of panic. "The stellar drain has already consumed 3 systems," announced High Commander Vex Thor of the Cardassian Empire, his crystalline form shimmering with agitation. "Our most advanced warships can't even approach it. The quantum disturbance tears through our shields like they're nothing." Sarah studied the simulation playing out before them. The phenomenon they dubbed the stellar drain appeared as a shifting vortex of dark energy, spreading through space like an oil slick across water. Already, it had devoured the energy of 3 star systems, leaving behind only cold, dead husks of planets. The Cardassians, with their quantum crystal technology, had sent their finest battleships. The Martian, renowned for their plasma weaponry, had launched their most devastating attacks. The Arcturian Defense Force, masters of temporal warfare, had attempted to contain it in a time bubble. Nothing worked. "Perhaps," rumbled War Chief Khazar of the Martian, "the humans would like to share their thoughts. Surely they have some safety protocols to bore it to death." Several delegates chuckled, the tension briefly broken by the familiar mockery of humanity's cautious nature. Sarah didn't rise to the bait. After 50 years in space, she'd heard it all before. Humans were the safety inspectors of the galaxy, the ones who insisted on triple redundancies, constant drills, and endless simulations, while other races boasted of their warriors' courage or their scientists' genius. Humanity was known for asking, "What if?" and "Are you sure?" "Actually," Sarah said, her voice cutting through the chatter, "I do have a suggestion." She gestured, and a hologram shifted to show Earth's 3rd Defense Fleet. The assembled aliens stared at the boxy, unglamorous ships. They lacked the crystalline beauty of Cardassian vessels, or the predatory grace of Martian warships. "You can't be serious." Vex Thor's crystalline form flickered with disbelief. "Those are civilian evacuation ships with minimal weapons. They're designed for running away." "They're designed for survival," Sarah corrected. "And right now, that's exactly what we need. Every ship in the 3rd Fleet has independent backup systems for their backup systems. They can maintain shields at minimal power levels for months. Their sensors are calibrated to detect the slightest spatial anomalies." "And how will this help?" Khazar demanded. "Will you bore the stellar drain into submission with your safety checklists?" Sarah activated another simulation. "Our analysis suggests the drain responds to energy signatures. The more powerful the source, the more aggressive its reaction. Your advanced weapons and shields might be making it worse." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The mighty warships of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations had been feeding the very thing they were trying to destroy. "The 3rd Fleet can approach using minimal power signatures," Sarah continued. "We can establish a containment perimeter while studying the phenomenon. It's not glamorous, but it might work." "And if it doesn't?" Vex Thor asked. "Then we'll fail safely," Sarah replied with a slight smile. "It's kind of our thing." The command chamber erupted in debate. Sarah waited patiently as the various species argued, threatened, and finally, reluctantly, agreed. Not because they believed in the human approach, but because they had run out of alternatives. As she left the chamber to prepare her fleet, Sarah heard War Chief Khazar mutter to his subordinates, "Trust humans to turn cowardice into a strategy." She didn't bother correcting him. Soon enough, they would understand that there was nothing cowardly about facing the unknown with respect rather than bravado. The 3rd Fleet might not look impressive, but every ship, every system, every protocol had been designed with one purpose: to keep their crews alive long enough to solve problems that couldn't be beaten into submission. As she boarded her flagship, the HSS Vigilant, Sarah thought about all the mockery humans had endured over their excessive caution. But space was vast and uncaring. And out here, Survival wasn't about being the strongest or the most advanced. It was about being prepared for anything, even the unimaginable. The Third Fleet would launch within 24 hours after completing every safety check and evacuation drill. Let the other species laugh. Humanity had learned long ago that true courage wasn't about fearlessly charging into danger. It was about facing danger with open eyes and careful planning. The stellar drain awaited, and humanity would meet it not with overwhelming force, but with something far more powerful: the strength to admit that they were afraid, and the wisdom to let that fear make them stronger. The power of preparation. The HSS Vigilant moved through space at what the Kardashians called slug speed, its massive form leading a fleet of 30 equally unglamorous vessels. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge, watching as her crew performed their 15th systems check of the day. To the alien observers trailing at a safe distance, it must have looked like madness. Another complaint from the Martian battle group. Lieutenant Park reported from communications. They say we're moving so slowly that the stellar drain will consume half the galaxy before we arrive. Send them our standard response, Sarah replied, not taking her eyes off the sensor readings. The standard response was a detailed analysis of approach vectors, energy signatures, and risk assessments. The aliens never read it, but humanity's dedication to documentation would prove valuable later. Dr. Maya Patel, the fleet's chief scientist, approached with a tablet displaying new data. The void ahead is showing quantum fluctuations unlike anything we've recorded. Every other species tried to brute force their way through. We're the first to actually study the pattern. Sarah nodded. While the alien fleets had charged in with weapons blazing, the Third Fleet crawled forward, each ship extending a web of passive sensors. They moved in a formation that the Kardashians had mockingly called the tortoise shell, but which provided overlapping fields of observation and protection. Admiral, Maya's voice dropped to a whisper. I think I'm seeing something in the data. The drain, it's not random. There's a rhythm to it, like a heartbeat. Before Sarah could respond, alarms blared across the bridge. A massive energy surge erupted from the stellar drain, racing toward the fleet like a tsunami through space. The alien observation ships immediately began powering up their weapons and shields, their instinct to fight overwhelming their reason. All ships maintain current power levels. Sarah commanded, her voice steady. Initiate Protocol Omega-3. Let it wash over us. The crew, drilled countless times for this scenario, responded with practiced precision. Instead of raising shields to maximum power, they cycled them through randomized low-energy patterns. Instead of charging weapons, they powered down all non-essential systems. The energy wave hit the Martian and Kardashian observation ships first. Their powerful shields flared brilliantly against the assault, and then shattered. The wave seemed to feed off their resistance, growing stronger with each ship it consumed. Then it reached the Third Fleet. The HSS Vigilant shuddered as the energy wave made contact. Warning lights flickered across every console, but the ship's multiple redundant systems kept them functioning. Through the viewport, Sarah watched as the wave passed through their formation like water around stones in a stream. Damage report, she called out, though she already knew the answer. They had drilled this, simulated it, prepared for it. All ships reporting minimal damage, Lieutenant Park announced. The low-power protocols worked. We're basically playing dead, and the energy, it's ignoring us. The alien observers who had survived the wave stared in disbelief. The primitive human ships, with their outdated technology and excessive backup systems, had survived where advanced shields had failed. Dr. Patel, Sarah turned to her chief scientist. You said something about a rhythm. Maya was already deep in her analysis. Yes. The wave's interaction with our ships provided new data. This isn't just energy, Admiral. It's trying to communicate. Sarah watched as the stellar drain pulsed in the distance, its dark energy patterns shifting like clouds before a storm. Where others had seen only a threat to be destroyed, humanity's cautious approach had revealed something more. "Send a message to Alliance Command," she ordered. "Tell them we're initiating first contact protocols." First contact. Lieutenant Park's eyes widened. "But it's just an anomaly." "An anomaly with a heartbeat," Sarah corrected. "And we're the first ones who bothered to listen instead of shoot." As the message was sent, Sarah reflected on humanity's long journey to the stars. They had been mocked for their caution, derided for their paranoia. But those same traits had led them to develop protocols for everything, including contact with forms of life that didn't fit anyone's definition of life. The stellar drain pulsed again. But this time, the Third Fleet was ready. Their sensors recorded every fluctuation. Their computers analyzed every pattern. While the warrior races of the galaxy prepared for battle, humanity prepared to do what they did best: carefully, methodically, and safely unravel a mystery that couldn't be solved with weapons. The real question was, what would they find when they finally understood what they were looking at? And would the galaxy be ready for the answer? Understanding the unknown. The bridge of the HSS Vigilant had transformed into what the alien observers called a human nest. Displays covered every surface, showing endless streams of data, while crew members cross-referenced patterns and tested theories. To any other species, it would have looked like chaos. To humans, it was their element. "Look at this frequency pattern." Dr. Maya Patil pointed to a rhythmic wave on her main screen. "It's not just random pulses. There's structure here, almost like code." Sarah finished, leaning closer. After 3 days of careful observation, patterns had begun to emerge from what had initially appeared to be chaos. The stellar drain wasn't consuming systems. It was processing them. A flash of light announced the arrival of another Cardassian battleship. The crystalline vessels had been arriving in groups, their commanders increasingly frustrated by the humans' passive approach. "High Commander Vexthor is demanding an update," Lieutenant Park reported from his station. "He says, well, his exact words aren't translatable, but he's questioning our competence." Sarah nodded, unsurprised. "Send him our latest data packet. All of it." The transmission contained thousands of pages of analysis, sensor readings, and theoretical models. Like the previous 12 packets, it would probably go unread. The warrior races preferred action to analysis. "Admiral," Maya's voice carried an edge of excitement she couldn't quite suppress. "I think we found something. The energy pattern. It's a containment field." The bridge fell silent. Sarah moved to Maya's station, studying the complex mathematical models on display. "Explain." "The drain isn't destroying systems. It's preserving them. Look at the quantum signatures. Every star, every planet it consumes is actually being held in a state of perfect stasis. It's like someone built the ultimate backup drive for entire solar systems." Before Sarah could respond, alarms blared across the fleet. The stellar drain's rhythm had changed, its pulses becoming faster, more urgent. "Energy spike from the Cardassian fleet," Lieutenant Park called out. "They're charging weapons. All ships, maintain current protocols." Sarah ordered calmly. "Open a channel to Vexthor." The High Commander's crystalline form appeared on screen, his structure pulsing with aggressive energy. "Stand aside, human. Your slow approach has failed. We will end this threat now." "High Commander," Sarah's voice remained steady, "we've discovered that the phenomenon is artificial. It's a containment system of immense power. If you attack it..." "More human theories," Vexthor interrupted. "While you study and analyze, more systems are being lost. We will show you how warriors solve problems." The Cardassian fleet surged forward, their weapons charging to full power. Sarah watched the energy readings spike dangerously. "Maya," she turned to her chief scientist, "if this is a containment field, what happens if it's breached?" Based on these readings, Maya's face paled. A cascade failure would release all the contained energy at once. Dozens of solar systems worth of power, all released in an instant. Sarah's decision took less than a second. "All ships, initiate Protocol Epsilon." Divert all power to the transmission arrays. The Third Fleet moved with practiced precision, their formation shifting to create a complex geometric pattern. Each ship aimed specialized communication arrays at the drain. "What are you doing?" Vex Thor demanded. "Showing you a different kind of strength," Sarah replied. "Maya, begin transmission." The human fleet began broadcasting a simple mathematical sequence, the same pattern they had detected in the drain's pulses, but inverted. If they were right, if this really was a containment field. The effect was immediate. The drain's chaotic energy patterns suddenly synchronized, matching the rhythm of the human transmission. The dark energy began to coalesce, forming structures that defied normal space. "By the Crystal Empire," Vex Thor whispered, his attack forgotten. Where there had been only swirling chaos, now stood a vast geometric structure, its surface covered in symbols that pulsed with living light. The containment field had responded to their signal, revealing its true form. "First contact protocols," Sarah announced to her crew. "But stay alert. Just because we found the door doesn't mean we know what's behind it." As the massive structure continued to transform, Sarah reflected on the irony. The galaxy's warrior races had seen only a threat to be destroyed, but humanity's cowardly approach, their need to understand before acting, had revealed something far more important. They weren't facing a weapon or a natural disaster. They were facing a message in a bottle, left by someone who had mastered the art of preserving entire solar systems. The real question was, what had they been trying to preserve themselves from? The human element. The geometric structure hung in space like a city made of light and mathematics, its surfaces shifting with patterns that seemed to defy physics. The Third Fleet maintained their careful formation, while the alien observation ships hung back, weapons still charged but confusion evident in their erratic movements. "We're receiving a signal," Lieutenant Park announced, his fingers dancing across his console. It's using our own transmission frequency, but modified." Sarah nodded, unsurprised. They had drilled for this possibility, not first contact with a geometric space structure, specifically, but for any response to their mathematical broadcasts. "Begin Phase 2 of First Contact protocols." The crew moved with practiced precision, each member knowing their role. While other species might have rushed to respond, humanity had learned the value of careful communication. "High Commander Vex Thor is demanding to take the lead in communications," Park reported, a hint of tension in his voice. "The Kardashians are claiming primary contact rights based on their superior technology. Tell them we're following Galactic Alliance First Contact protocols," Sarah replied, knowing full well that no such protocols existed. Humanity had written hundreds of pages of contact procedures, but the warrior races had never bothered to read them. Dr. Maya Patil approached with her latest analysis. "Admiral, the structure's energy signature. It's not just preserving matter. It's preserving consciousness." The implications hit Sarah like a physical force. "You mean this isn't just a backup drive for solar systems?" Maya continued, her voice barely containing her excitement. "It's an ark, a shelter for an entire civilization." Before Sarah could respond, the geometric structure pulsed with new energy. Symbols appeared in the space between the fleet and the structure, not in any known language, but in pure mathematical concepts. "They're testing us," Sarah realized, "just as we tested them." She turned to her crew. "Begin transmission of the prime response." The prime response was another uniquely human creation, a carefully crafted message that conveyed not just intelligence, but empathy. While other species focused on displaying power or technology, humanity had designed their first contact protocols around understanding and compassion. The structure's response was immediate. The mathematical symbols shifted, transformed, and suddenly resolved into recognizable patterns, three-dimensional images showing a story. They watched as an ancient civilization, facing some immense catastrophe, created the containment field as a last resort. "They didn't run," Maya whispered. "They found a way to preserve everything. Their people, their worlds, their entire civilization, until it was safe to emerge. And now they're asking if it's safe, Sarah added, watching the symbols shift again. The story being told showed questions, concerns, caution, traits that seemed very familiar. Suddenly, the alien observation ships surged forward, their sensors probing aggressively at the structure. The geometric patterns flickered in what Sarah immediately recognized as alarm. "All ships, maintain position," she ordered her fleet. Then, to the structure, they transmitted a new message, not just mathematics this time, but images of their own. Images of human history, of lessons learned through caution, of strength found in careful preparation. The structure's response was remarkable. Its aggressive defense patterns softened, shifted, became almost curious. New images appeared, showing striking parallels. Another species that had learned the value of caution, of preparation, of respect for the unknown. They're like us, Maya realized. A civilization that chose preservation over destruction, preparation over aggression. Not just like us, Sarah corrected, watching as new patterns emerged. But they understand us, and we understand them. The alien observers watched in stunned silence as the humans, the supposedly primitive, overly cautious humans, established the first real communication with an ancient civilization that had mastered the preservation of entire solar systems. "Begin Phase 3, Sarah ordered, her voice carrying the weight of the moment. "Let's show them that the galaxy has changed enough for them to return." As her crew began the careful process of deeper communication, Sarah couldn't help but appreciate the irony. The warrior races had seen only a threat to be destroyed. The advanced races had seen only a puzzle to be solved. But humanity, with their primitive focus on safety and preparation, had seen something else. Fellow travelers who had faced the darkness of space and chosen to face it with wisdom rather than weapons. The question now was, what knowledge had they preserved? And how would it change the galaxy's understanding of true strength? A new understanding. 3 months after first contact with the geometric structure, the grand chamber of the Galactic Alliance bore little resemblance to its former self. Where once warrior races had boasted of their military might, now representatives from across the galaxy gathered to learn from what many called the Great Library. Admiral Sarah Chen stood before the assembled delegates, no longer the target of mockery, but a figure of respect. Behind her, a hologram showed the transformed stellar drain, now revealed as the Preserver's Archive, a repository of knowledge spanning millions of years. The Preserver civilization, Sarah began, faced a threat we can barely comprehend. The collapse of their galaxy's dimensional stability. Rather than seek weapons or attempt to flee, they chose to preserve not just their people, but entire solar systems, along with all their knowledge and wisdom. The chamber was silent, even the usually boisterous Mercian warriors listening intently. The past months had changed many perspectives. Their solution wasn't to fight the inevitable, she continued. It was to prepare, to protect, to preserve. They created a sanctuary outside normal spacetime, where they could wait until the universe stabilized again. In doing so, they saved not just themselves, but countless species under their protection. Dr. Maya Patel stepped forward, bringing up new displays. The Preserver's technology operates on principles we're only beginning to understand. But more important than their technological achievements is their philosophy, one that values preservation over destruction, wisdom over force, and preparation over reaction. High Commander Vexthor, his crystalline form somewhat dimmer than usual, spoke up. The Cardassian Empire acknowledges that we were wrong. Had we succeeded in our attempt to destroy the archive, we would have lost knowledge that could advance our civilization by millennia. Not just knowledge, Sarah corrected gently. We would have destroyed the last survivors of a civilization that chose to face the universe's greatest challenges not with weapons, but with wisdom. The archive had begun sharing its knowledge, but carefully, methodically, in a way that felt surprisingly familiar to the humans. Each piece of information came with detailed safety protocols, contingency plans, and ethical guidelines for its use. The preservers have agreed to gradually reintegrate into our galaxy, Sarah announced. But they have a condition. They will only share their knowledge with species who demonstrate the capacity to use it responsibly. War Chief Khazar of the Mercian, once quick to mock human caution, rumbled thoughtfully. And they have chosen humanity to oversee this process. Because you showed them respect when we showed only fear and aggression. Because we showed patience, Sarah corrected. Because when faced with the unknown, we chose to understand rather than destroy. The preservers see in humanity a reflection of their own values, not perfect, but striving to face the universe with wisdom rather than just courage. The implications weren't lost on anyone. The galaxy's balance of power hadn't shifted through military might or technological superiority, but through the very traits that had once made humans objects of ridicule. We've already begun implementing new protocols, Maya added, bringing up another display. The preservers' knowledge of containment fields alone has revolutionized our approach to disaster prevention. But more importantly, their philosophy of careful progress is spreading. Indeed, across the galaxy, changes were already visible. Cardassian ships now carried multiple redundant systems. Mercian battle doctrines included detailed safety procedures. Species that had once rushed headlong into danger now stopped to ask, what if? The preservers have offered to teach us, Sarah concluded, not just their technology, but their wisdom. They see in humanity's so-called weakness, our caution, our endless preparation, our respect for the unknown, the seeds of true strength. As the chamber erupted in discussion, Sarah watched the delegates with quiet satisfaction. The galaxy was changing, not through force or fear, but through understanding. Humanity's greatest contribution to galactic civilization hadn't been a weapon or a technological breakthrough. It had been the simple wisdom of looking before leaping. The preservers were emerging from their long sleep into a galaxy that was finally ready to learn from them, guided by the very species others had dismissed as too cautious, too careful, too afraid. But as humanity had always known, true courage wasn't about fearlessly charging into danger. It was about facing the unknown with open eyes, careful planning, and the wisdom to admit that sometimes the strongest approach was the most cautious one. As Sarah watched representatives from dozens of species discussing new safety protocols and preservation strategies, she smiled. The galaxy had finally learned what humanity had known all along. In the vast, dangerous expanse of space, survival didn't belong to the strongest or the most aggressive. It belonged to those wise enough to prepare for anything, even the unimaginable.